Howdy everyone, my name is Arnie, and I have a video today called Silent Suffering, Cycles of Shame, Survival, and Psychological Trauma in Modern Chinese Cinema. So, in Western cinema, trauma is usually represented loudly. It fights back. It demands to be heard. Silence is thought of to be a weakness, and repression is viewed as unhealthy. Although in Chinese cinema, trauma comes in a different form. It's quiet. It's swallowed. From the historical epics of the fifth generation to the faster-paced 21st century blockbusters, one theme remains constant: the art of repression. In this video essay, I argue that while the source of pain is different, from the radical actions of the Cultural Revolution to the heavy pressure of modern social status, the survival mechanism remains the same. Using the framework by researchers Bedford and Hwang, we're going to explore the psychology of repression not as a weakness, as the West would say, but a high-level survival skill. First, we have to understand identity in the West. When we think of individualism, we primarily think of what not to do, especially to not impede on someone else's individuality. You have rights, you have freedoms, you're a distinct unit. But in Confucian culture, the perspective is different. Instead of individual identity, the small self, it's the relational self, or the dawa. As Bedford and Hwang describe, your identity is defined by your relationships. You're not a distinct unit, but a permanent member within your family and ancestors. You mess up in the West, that's on you. You messed up in Chinese culture, then your whole group loses. So if we look at Fu Gui in the film To Live, once tragedy hits, he doesn't get rageful. Fu Gui engages in a specific Chinese emotion called neijio. Guilt in the West is usually about breaking the law, like stealing a car. However, neijio is interpersonal guilt, like that deep gut-wrenching feeling that you failed a duty to help someone you love. Fu Gui's silence isn't because he's scared or is giving up. He's silent because he feels he failed supporting his family, so he swallows his hurt to keep his lineage alive. We see this dynamic portrayed in Blue Kite. Like To Live, the characters endure the difficulties of political movement. Looking at the mother's perspective, we see that she remarries not for love, but for survival. She hides her own personal happiness to secure a roof over her son's head. Her silence is a shield protecting the relational self, her family line. Yet, that was in the 1960s. What about now? China had drastically changed ever since then, moving from Maoism to capitalism, yet the psychological rules are the same. The true mechanism is shame. But in Chinese psychology, shame isn't just one thing, it has levels. In the 2011 film Love Is Not Blind, Xiao Qian is betrayed by her boyfriend. She isn't loud, she puts on a mask of sarcasm and humor. She is dealing with Diao Lian, or loss of face. In a relational society, face is your social currency, your reputation. Diao Lian is the public embarrassment of looking like a failure in front of others. She represses her sadness not because she's fake, but because she's doing her best to protect her dignity, putting on the mask of sarcasm and humor to survive socially. Yet, there's a deeper, darker level of shame in the tragedy Farewell My Concubine. Diao isn't just embarrassed like Xiao Qian, he's experiencing Qiao Qi. This is the highest level of shame, roughly translating to stain on the face. While Diao Lian is about your reputation, Xiao Shi is about one's existence. This is the feeling that you are a fundamentally flawed existence. This makes you want to hide, disappear, and erase yourself from the face of the planet. This is why his silence is so heavy. He is convinced that his existence is flawed at its core. This evolution continues in other modern films like Better Days. The brutal public spectacle is replaced by the exam room. The students aren't going against the government, but their own potential. This experience is Chiang Kui. This is the shame of the unfulfilled ideal, that loud whisper in your head that you haven't lived up to your fullest potential. It's the shame of getting a C when you could have gotten an A. The characters here endure bullying and stress in silence because they haven't earned the right to complain yet. Scholar Ray Chow calls this the endurance aesthetic. The concept means that survival isn't winning the fight, but outlasting the storm. And this is where I think we get it wrong. Some of us might say, while we look at these characters, why don't they fight back? If we took the time to think about the mental effort, the sheer emotional strength it takes to hold back an ocean of feeling, that silence, now that's strength. What happens when the silence is broken, when you don't repress? In the film, A Touch of Sin, the characters refuse to hold it in. The result? Extreme violence and chaos. This only reinforces the idea that without silence, harmony is broken and everything falls apart. In the end, these films present us with this paradox. In the West, the self is something you find, and in Chinese cinema, the self is something you sacrifice. Fu Gui silences his grief to save his family, Jie Yi silences his identity to save his art, Xiao Xin silences her heartbreak to save her dignity. These films ask us a difficult question. How much of the small self can you slice away until there's nothing left? Fu Gui endures, Xiao Xin moves on, but Jie Yi's price of silence was a complete erasure. The real tragedy isn't the silence itself, but the world they live in which demands silence to be the price of admission. They may hold the world together, but sometimes they do it by breaking themselves apart. If you see yourself in these characters where you're silent, the world might tell you that you're being passive, to let it all out. But in the lens of this psychology, what you're doing is actually an incredible feat of strength. You are prioritizing the we over the me. You are protecting the harmony. So appreciate the strength it takes to be silent. But maybe down the line, you'll find someone or some people who you don't have to keep the mask on for. Because even the strongest recognize that this is a burden no one can carry alone. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.